All right, so today we're gonna get into some twists and do exactly as the arm balance is on the still frame of this. I don't know if you saw it, but we're gonna be doing side crow. We're gonna be doing the variation of side crow. Many of you have done side crow variations with me before in the past. I know I did them I think I did a couple in July back in the day. I probably did one in the spinal reset immersion. And today's variations are two options for us. First is going to be more traditional variation of side crow, and then, well, they're both traditional actually, but I think the iconic version of side crow that we kind of think of. And then a variation that is what I think is fairly challenging and requires a lot of depth in rotation of the spine. And that said, we don't want to be forcing depth of rotation in the spine. So like our other arm balances, you could put your hands on blocks and actually will decrease the required amount of depth of rotation. We'll get there when we get there. So in twisting, if you read the email, I mentioned talking about connecting the limbs through the core. And in this case, it's connecting the right elbow to the left knee through the external obliques of the right side and internal obliques of the left side. Also the psoas along the left side. So in chromatic yoga, we call this the fire line. And that's what we're gonna be focusing on today, is the fire line, which starts or originates at the scapula, the shoulder blade, through a muscle called serratus anterior, which does protraction of the scapula. Okay, so protraction of the scapula then feeds in the serratus anterior, and the oblique muscles, external obliques, actually kind of intertwine with one another along the side. They actually look like fingers grabbing onto the rib cage for both of those, and they intertwine, and then from the serratus anterior causing protraction, then the rib cage follows into the obliques, creating flexion, which is rounding, and rotation of the spine. And then the opposite hip, we're going to use the hip flexors here, psoas, we're going to use the internal obliques, some rectus abdominis, and even, let me just think for a second. Yeah, no, those are the primary muscles that will then pull the opposite knee and hip, pelvic region up towards the opposite armpit, okay? And you're gonna feel that, I feel that a lot in my obliques on the left side. And at the same time, what's really confusing and challenging is you've got this massive fire line to get into side crow. That's one side of the body, and the other side of the body is actually doing what we call in chromatic yoga the air line. It's opening up, and that opening up is what allows the rib cage to rotate inside of the scapula. And you got to understand that when you're in an arm balance, your shoulder blades are actually fixed. They're not going to change where they are in space, but your rib cage changes inside of them. Normally, when we move our shoulder blades, the rib cage is more or less fixed and the shoulder blades move around the rib cage. But when the hands are on the ground, pretty much, I mean, you can bend the elbows and whatnot, but if you fix the elbows at a certain point, the shoulder blades are just fixed there. The rest is done with the rib cage moving inside of the shoulder blades. And so one side of your side crow is going to be completely protracted in the scapula, and that's going to be serratus anterior. And the other side is going to be retracted in the scapula. So that's going to help you. Now, you can do it with both shoulder blades even, but it requires even more rotation in the spine, and I'm not sure that it's even healthy at that point. So I think it's okay and a good idea to allow the rib cage to roll inside the scapula so that one side is more protracted, the other side is more retracted, and then the spinal rotation will continue along that side. I apologize if this is too technical at this point in time. Well, let's get into it and we'll apply everything. So today we're gonna start right at the top of our mat in, well, we're gonna go to chair pose, but we'll start standing. Let's get to it. Okay, so standing at the top of the yoga mat, Relax the shoulders back. Move your inner groins back so your weight's over your heels, and then move your head back. Let's take a few breaths with closed eyes and settle into our physical body, creating that gentle sound of ujjayi, that whisper through the nose, to both feel the breath sensationally and control the tempo of it. Another round of full inhale and exhale. With your feet hip width apart or so, maybe even a little bit wider, bend your knees and place your hands to your thighs. Hey, Nikki. You appreciate the technical breakdowns. Thank you. With your hands on your thighs, move your hips back. And with your hips back, knees back, push your heels out just to get the outer hips warmed up. Okay, and as you do that, sit a little bit lower. Lift the chest for now. We'll start with the back bend, and we'll just move through the movements of the scapula. So arms out wide like you're holding a big ball, and micro bend of the elbows. Together, shoulder blades come toward one another, called retraction again. As you exhale, separate your shoulder blades, move them apart, protraction. Again, inhale, retract both scapula. Exhale, protract both scapula. Let's do two more. Reach the hands to the sky. Inhale. Bow to the earth. Exhale. Uttanasana, forward fold. Half lift on the in-breath. Exhale, bow. Two more. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, bow. Inhale, half lift. On this exhale, step left foot back. High up on the fingertips, let's take a breath in. Soften the face, soften the gaze, the eyes. Gather strength in your legs, specifically in the back leg. Press the ball mount of the back foot down and drag the back foot forward until you feel these hip flexors at the front of your hip activate. So that means try to press the ground, like if you can push your yoga mat further into the ground, but obviously the ground's not going anywhere, so as a result, your hips lift up. So press down and pull the back foot forward so you feel your hip flexors toning. Now carry that through to your core. So scoop your tailbone a little bit and round your upper back, get lighter on your fingers. Again, keep pressing the ball mount of the back foot down and dragging it forward. Let's take a long breath in to elongate the skull forward. And a long breath out. On the next inhale, step forward, halfway lift. Exhale, right foot back. All right, on the fingertips, we take a breath, soften for a moment. You can get heavier. Now let's get light, get strong. So pull your feet toward each other, but really focus on the back hip flexors. So press your ball mount of your back foot down until you actually feel your hips lift up as a result. So press down and drag forward. And as you press down, hopefully you feel the muscles at the front of your pelvis, the front of your hip joint, activating, called your hip flexors, some of them. Okay, now as you do that, start to round your upper back, get lighter in the fingertips. Breathing into the back body. You'll notice that your shoulder blades are protracted here if you're in a rounded position and your hips are high. In order to touch the ground, you're reaching, right? You're protracting the scapula. One more breath in, lengthen through the skull.
and out. Please step forward on the next breath in. Inhale, half lift. And step your left foot back. Same idea, get strong in the legs, pull your feet toward each other, press the ball mound of the foot down, inhale. As you exhale, this time, turn the belly, turn the chest, twist. Again, inhale, release the right hand to the ground. Twist, belly to the right, chest to the right, right shoulder blade retracts. Inhale. Exhale, right shoulder blade moves towards the spine, retraction. Inhale. This time as you exhale, straighten gently through the front leg, look forward. Take a breath in. And if you like, you can start to bow. Let's hold for one breath. On the next inhale, bend the knees, step forward, half lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Right foot back, exhale. Okay, let's take a breath. Gather strength in the legs, press the ball mound of the back foot down, round the back. On the exhale, twist, turn the belly, chest, left shoulder blade back. Inhale, unwind. Exhale, turn the belly, chest, left shoulder blade. One more. Inhale, make sure your hips are staying lifted and strong. Exhale. Inhale. As you exhale, straighten the left leg, look forward. Let's hold here as you inhale. With the option on this exhale to bow or just stay lifted. Hold for a full breath in. And out. Okay, inhale, bend the front knee, look forward, step forward. Exhale, bow. Hands on the thighs, bend your knees. Lift the chest up and pause. I'm going to start getting the connection between the opposite arm pushing and the opposite leg pulling in. So this connection of protraction of the scapula through the twist of the core, through the strength of the opposite hip flexors. So what we'll do is take your right hand to your left knee, tippy toe of the left foot, and then start to pull your left knee into your hand. And then if you can, flex your left foot so your left knee is pulling up towards the opposite shoulder and your opposite shoulder is pulling down. There's a gentle twist that starts to happen. With your left hand on your hip, pull your left shoulder blade into retraction and then reach the left hand back. You're still in chair pose. I don't know if you can see that. If I move my hips back a little bit, I'll show you a different angle here. That's not the best one. I'll go to this one. Yeah. So keep pulling the left knee up towards your opposite shoulder, and hopefully you start to feel your left obliques. If not, think about picking up your left ilium, your left pelvis, and pulling it towards the right armpit. And turning your chest. All right, and release. Hopefully that was challenging in all the good ways. Let's take a moment here, full breath in. Feel what you've created. Second side, bend the knees. Left hand comes to the right knee. Tippy toe of the right foot to start. To give you a little moment, okay? You are twisting a bit in the, rotating the torso to the right. And your right knee now pulls up towards your left shoulder as you flex the right foot. Okay, you should feel that in your hip flexors. Now, as you start to initiate the rotation of the spine, you'll hopefully feel your internal obliques along the right side as well. But from your left shoulder and rib cage, it's kind of pressing the whole body down into the knee, and your knee is pressing up into the hand. Take the right arm back behind you, right shoulder blade retracts. We breathe, looking for the goodness in each breath, as challenging as it might be. Okay, unwind. Stand, let your body recoup for a moment, your mind recoup. Inhale, chair pose, Utkatasana. Exhale, bow forward, Uttanasana. Halfway lift on the inhale. Left foot steps back, exhale. High lunge this time, rise all the way up. And as you exhale, I'd like you to reach the left arm forward and the right hand back. Pause here. Think about reaching from your left side of the body. So left shoulder blade is going to protract. It's going to move away from the spine. And your left rib cage is going to turn more. Now, from the right side, you can even think of like a bow and arrow. Pull your right shoulder blade back. Using your right back muscles, you'll start to rotate. Now, in this position here, get a little more upright. And you're going to feel that your left leg starts to relax. Don't let it. Instead, firm up your left leg and press the ball mound of the back foot down and drag it forward. Even try to think about twisting your abdominals from the strength of your abdominals. So try to kind of squeeze them into a rotation. 2 more breaths. Keep the ball mound of the back foot pressing down so your hip flexors of the left leg are engaged. All right, inhale, reach high lunge. Open up, warrior 2. Stretch the right belly. Inhale, reach the right arm up. Exhale, warrior 2. We'll do 2 more. Inhale. Right ribs up. Exhale. Last one. Exhale, hands to the ground. Plank pose, inhale. Exhale, knees down, lower chaturanga. Inhale, lift the heart up, warm the back muscles. Exhale, release. Inhale, heart and hands. Inhale, lift up, shoulder blades retract. Exhale. Heart, hands, and feet. Exhale. All fours. And exhale, downward dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Let's take a couple more breaths. Right leg to the sky on the inhale. Bend your knee, open up your hip. Breathe into the right rib cage. Straighten the leg, square the hip. Step right foot forward. This time, place your hands on your front thigh. Okay, now press the ball mound of the back foot down, hips lifted, and round the back. With your back rounded, take your fingertips together. Okay, now see if you can keep your fingertips in line with your heart. So don't move your hands side to side really, and let this be just a pure rotation from the spinal column. So no movement of the shoulder blades, they just go along with the rib cage. On the exhale, turn the belly. Turn the chest, revolving in a very spherical manner. You see my torso is the same angle as the back leg. Keep that. The fingertips are right in front of the heart. Just check in that you haven't moved your hands to kind of make it look like you've rotated in your spine. Okay, a couple more here. Use the exhales to spin in the spine. Think about moving from your abdominals rotating. All right, release the fingertips to the ground. Inhale, straighten through the front leg. Should probably feel a little bit more ready to bow forward as you exhale. Hold here for a full breath in and out. Bend the front knee. Inhale, step forward, half lift. Exhale, bow forward. Bend the knees, chair pose. Find a back bend, lift the chest. Hold, exhale, open up your shoulders by coming into cactus. Keep the shoulders back, hands up. Exhale, bow forward, Uttanasana. Half lift, inhale. Right foot back. Inhale up to a high lunge. Yes. And then right arm forward. Left arm pulls back like a bow and arrow. Okay, holding here. See if you can use your abdominals, your obliques. Sometimes it helps to actually touch the abdomen to see if you can get it to awaken as you turn. Now check in with your back leg. It'll tend to kind of get relaxed here. Keep it strong and press down through the ball mount of the back foot. Remember, the right side is going to be pushing. The left side is pulling. Hold here and really try to focus in on the abdominals doing the rotation. And just noticing my tendency as the back leg just keeps relaxing. It wants to kind of go along for the ride. And that's because your pelvis is trying to rotate. Some of that is okay, but to really strengthen the core for now, if you keep your back leg strong, it keeps your pelvis stable and requires you now to move from the strength of your core muscles. Left shoulder blade's retracted, right one is protracted. All right, inhale, high lunge. Open warrior two. 3 times reverse warrior, inhale. Exhale, warrior two. Reverse. Warrior two. And release, hands to the ground. Plank. Lower chaturanga. Slide the hands wide, fingertips. Inhale, lift the front body. Exhale, soften. Pull the chest forward and press the heart forward. Exhale, release. Let's do another one. Inhale, front body lifts. Feet a little wide. Exhale, soften. Press the low ribs forward, melt. Stretch the abdomen up towards your throat. Skull up to the sky. Exhale, release. All fours. Exhale, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Hold for 3 breaths. Left leg to the sky. Bend the knee, open the hip. Full breath in. leg, square hip. Exhale, step. Place the hands on the front thigh. All right, so firm up your back leg. Make sure your torso and leg are all on one long angle. Pull your ribs back and like you're holding a big ball. Fingertips right in front of the center of your heart, okay? So you can just bring your fingertips, touch your heart, and try and keep them in line, like as if they were fixed, as if there was like a little bit of a line of energy between your fingers and your heart. Hold that, don't move it. Just rotate your torso and your hands go along for the ride, okay? So here we go. Use your exhale, turn your belly, turn your chest. Check in, fingers and heart, make sure they're in a line. All right, inhale, unwind. Fingertips to the ground, straighten through the front leg and bow. Let's hang out here. Step forward on the inhale. Exhale, bow forward. Hands to the thighs, bend the knees. All right, starting to feel that heat build, I hope. So sit back into your knees, round the back, and fingertips to touch. Turn your spine. Okay, sit a little bit lower, a little rounded in the upper back. Turn your spine. Let's do another one. Inhale, sit back a little bit. Exhale, turn your spine. All right, inhale back to center. Exhale, holds. Same thing, okay? Fingertips out in front. It's just really to strengthen the core muscles so that we know how to rotate our rib cage. And we'll integrate the legs and the arms in a second. Exhale, turn your belly to the left. Exhale, turn. Sit back a little bit. Make sure your fingers in line with the heart for now. So we're just moving the rib cage. All right, unwind. Woo, hands to the ground, bow forward. Let's give ourselves a moment. Interlace the hands, stretch the shoulders. All right, release the hands. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, bow. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, bow. Half lift on the inhale. Left foot back as you exhale. All right, so come up, hands to the front thigh. To initiate this, we're gonna do a twist just like we did, rounding the back, and you're gonna take arm balance hands. So arm balance hands means your elbows are micro bent, and ultimately both shoulder blades will start protracted. Imagine your hands are on the ground, so they're not like this, right? They're flexed or extended back like they would be in an arm balance. Shoulder blades start protracted, hinge forward. Now spin your spine, pause. Now, if you kept strong in the core, you kept strong in your legs, you probably didn't touch your knee right away, right? So as you exhale this time, round a little bit in the spine, and that action will bring your elbow and thigh closer together. But I didn't say collapse in the chest to do that, right? Keep your back rounded, use your core muscles to get down there. Now, with your right shoulder blade, you can retract, but don't move your hand back here. Still keep it in an arm balance. So shoulder back, but hand stays forward, just like you would, your hand would be on the ground. Okay, now round your upper back. Now, don't use your left shoulder, just turn your belly to the right. Right, so no, instead of just like cranking it out with your left arm, like, pushing, use your core. So that's really what happens in an arm balance, is you can't use your elbow in the case of an arm balance because your hand is fixed. So you have to use your core to turn, to twist. All right, start to unwind. And straighten through the front leg, wag the tail straight back. If you want, you can turn your toes out and stretch more of the outer line of the leg. It's an option. You could also just keep them turned in. So the thing is with arm balances, a lot of people practice twists by using their arms to pull themselves into a twist. But with arm balances, your hands are not available for that. You have to use your core to do the twist, okay? So you have to strengthen these muscles that rotate the spine while the hands are fixed, okay? Step forward, inhale. Exhale and bow. Now, most of us, when we do core strengthening, we don't necessarily do a lot of rotational core strengthening. Like, we don't do strengthening for mobility. Most of us do strengthening of the core for stability. Maybe we do little crunches and things like this. But rotation is not one that many people really work on. And maybe it's okay because it's a very challenging movement of the spine, and it could be dangerous if you go too much too soon. So probably best not to do it in a fitness scenario. But slow, controlled yoga setting is great for that. So inhale, half lift. Exhale, right foot back. Let's take that adventure on our left side, hands to the front thigh. So slow, controlled, steady movements mimic our arm balance position. So round the upper back, still on that diagonal with the back leg, and then your arms come into that arm balance shape. So together, we inhale, exhale, turn the belly. Now, if you just did a pure rotation, see my elbow didn't make it to the thigh unless you're really strong, and I guess perhaps don't have much resistance in the core as well. On this exhale, pull the belly back. Now, don't make this easy, don't fall. Just stay lifted and use your core to rotate into it. Stay lifted so it's not falling into the pose, it's using your muscles. Now, don't use your right elbow and right shoulder to twist like this. Stay right where you are. Don't use your arms, turn your belly. Use your core muscles to do the twist. Careful of your right shoulder. It will want to push. It'll want to like dig into the knee because it's used to that. Your left shoulder blade can pull back, but don't move the hand back. Keep the hand in front like you're doing an arm balance. Move your shoulder back. Stay strong in the back leg. Remember, the twist is happening at the core. Nothing is collapsing. My chest isn't down here. I'm not relaxed. I'm using my abdominals to pull back. All right, inhale to unwind. Fingertips to the ground. Now you can, if you like, turn the toes out. Might get you a nice, the back toes can turn in. Might get you a nice IT band stretch for some of you. Or keep the regular straight leg forward fold is fine too. All right, come back to center. Let's step forward, half lift. Exhale and bow forward. Hands to the hips, rise up to stand. All right. Let's do kind of like what we started off with, but instead of chair pose, we'll do just a standing leg. So right leg straight this time, left knee bent, right hand to the left inner knee specifically. Okay, so like this bulbous part of the knee, put your hand here. Okay, the knee is going to press up towards opposite shoulder. As you press the knee towards opposite shoulder, feel your hip flexors, your adductors here in the inner groin. And now you can use your abdominals to rotate the spine. Okay, let's stay there for a few more breaths. You notice how, I'll show you what the tendency will be here too, is to kind of like relax into it this way. Keep your hips back, hips over the heel. I'll make it a little harder on the left hip flexors to activate. Keeping that, retract your left shoulder blade. Abdominals here. Those are the internal obliques. All right, come on, unwinding. Okay, we got the other side. Let's do it. Hips back. Right knee comes up. Left hand to inner knee. And the right knee is trying to pull up towards the left shoulder. See the left shoulder, you can see it from this angle, is pretty good, is trying to protract and push into the knee. They're pushing against one another. Now, use your core muscles to rotate the spine to the right. Your right shoulder blade retracts. Left shoulder blade is trying to protract and push into the knee. Not enough to just keep the knee lifted. Press it up and across towards opposite shoulder. So you're really going to strengthen the hip flexors through the obliques. All right, and unwind. Now for these, you're gonna feel it mostly on the opposite side obliques with, like, so if you're turning to the right, it's the right obliques that you're gonna feel. Whereas when you're in an arm balance, you gotta do, it's gonna be both sides essentially working, but it's this push action from the opposite side. So the left obliques are gonna fold our abdominals and our rib cage towards the opposite knee. All right, so let's learn a little bit about this action on your back. So come to supine position. You might want to watch me one time. Let's see, what's the best way to do this? I suggest place a block between my thighs or my shins or whatever and squeeze it. Squeezing the block's going to have the added benefit of activating the adductor muscles. Some of your adductors are hip flexors, so that's beneficial. You could also place the block between the shins. Might be a little harder, but nice. And you're gonna move yourself into side crow, where the right knee comes towards the left armpit, and then you do a sit-up, and you try to reach. See how my hands and feet are all reaching in the same direction, okay? And that's gonna be that cross body twist. My right hip is trying to stay lifted. My left shoulder is trying to stay lifted. If I can, I get to a bent elbowed position, and this is side crow on my back. I'm not doing this, of course, which is, useless. Okay, so give it a shot. Come onto your back. If you've got a block, it's great. It's not necessary, just a little added benefit. You can squeeze it at different places. It could be between your shins, could be between your thighs, any kind of direction. Multiple ways that work. Find one that works for you. Okay, again, you pick your right hip up and pull the whole unit. The right knee, the right pelvis, everything towards your left armpit. Okay, for most people, they'll just move at the hip flexors like this, kind of just loosey-goosey at the hip. Make a unit, move the whole thing towards your opposite armpit. Okay, remember you're trying to do this in order to learn how to integrate the legs through the core to the shoulders, okay? Now, do a sit-up and rotate the spine to the right. So you're really only balancing on a very small portion of your back. If you can, you get your left elbow all the way up while still being bent in this position here. Notice my right arm isn't on the ground. It's lifted, so I'm not using that, okay? Nothing's really touching the ground except for my right shoulder blade and my left hip in the middle of my back. Okay, and relax. I like to, after doing those kind of things, press the head back so you activate the back neck muscles rather than what that will do is overactivate the front neck muscles. So it's good to balance that out. Let's do one more breath of activating the back of the neck. Okay, second side. Here we go. Squeezing the legs into the block. The whole unit. You move your left knee towards right armpit, tucking the tailbone as you go, squeezing the block. You notice how my legs are staying parallel, so even though I have a block, they're not coming together like this. I'm keeping them parallel, okay? Now I do a sit-up, pulling my right rib cage towards my left hip. I try to get as tight as possible in this little ball. Again, my left arm is not touching the ground. Maybe just my left shoulder blade, like the inner wingtip perhaps, okay? Really protract and push from the right shoulder, reach with the right hand towards closest to the outer left foot as possible. All right. Once again, press the back of the head into the ground. Get the back neck muscles working. All right. Come on out. Let's come sit up. So take your knees. You could, if you like, place a block between the legs again. Another added bonus for the adductors and hip flexors. So the adductors, by the way, fascially speaking, they're webbed together with your psoas. So even though if we cut all the fascia, the interconnective tissue away, you can see different attachment points of muscles to bones. But that fascia that organizes the way that our muscles move, and you can think about it like having clothes on. If you have tight clothes on, when you move, the clothes go with you. It pulls on tensions. And so if I had really tight pants on, I may not be able to move my legs because the fabric of the pants is so tight, right? So the fabric of your musculature inside is called fascia, and it connects more than just the single muscle group or muscle itself, but it connects muscle groups to muscle groups. It's what is connecting your whole body. And so that the adductor muscles feed right into the psoas muscle, and they're fascially connected. And so there's this interesting thing that happens when you activate your adductors. You might start to notice that your hip flexors or your deep core muscles, your psoas, becomes more awake, more active. And that's one of the reasons why you would squeeze a block. The other reason is to really propriocept, to understand where your legs are in space, because in arm balances, we get so fixated on the hands, which is the most important thing, but we might lose sight of where the legs are, and as a result, we're trying to balance this unaware thing called our legs. So let's get the legs active and propriocept them, know where they are in space. We come into a boat pose. Now in the boat pose, I gotta move my microphone. You're going to shift onto your right hip so that you're just balancing on your right buttocks, and you take your hands over into this position here, the arm balance position. Now notice your right leg starts to kind of get a little bit relaxed here. Squeeze your right leg into the block. If you don't have a block, squeeze your legs into each other, okay? And really try to get your right shoulder to reach towards the left outer foot, keeping the left hip up. Okay, take a break. Yes, feels good. Well, feels good for me. Okay, let's check out the second side. So you're gonna lean over into your left buttocks. So the right is off the ground. I do flex feet, you can do pointed feet. I just find it's easier with flex feet in this position. Squeezing the block and pulling your right knee towards left elbow, but really reaching with your left arm towards the right outer foot. Left arm reaches, and make sure your right hip is off the ground. How fun, isn't it? Now you can move, if you want, you can move your right shoulder blade back, retracting the right scapula, but the left shoulder blade protracts. Notice my left leg is getting a little relaxed. Squeeze the left leg into the block or into your right leg. All right. Nice full body connection there. Imprinting the shape into our body. Let's give it a shot. I think we're ready to roll, if I do say so. If there are any questions, you can throw them in the chat. They usually come a little bit late, so throw them up now and I'll get there. New definition of fun, twisting boat. Thanks, Patrick. You know, always coming up with new definitions for a good time over here at our little farm. All right, so let me explain a little bit about this. You know, a lot of people, when they do arm balances, they find the most efficient way of doing them, which means placing body parts on top of body parts and stacking bone structures so that you don't have to use as much muscle. Now, that's a very intelligent way to not lose energy, be able to hold a pose for a long time. But if your goal would be to develop body awareness and strength, then it's an unintelligent way. So intelligent if your goal is longevity of the pose and least amount of energy exertion. But we know to strengthen, it means it requires that we do a lot of energy exertion. In addition, what this method will do, instead of resting bones on bones, and I'll explain that in a second, is not only, of course, exert more energy, but ultimately it'll give you more access to a greater amount of poses. So the way that most people learn side crow is by lining up sideways and placing an elbow in the hip and then the other knee so that everything is kind of balancing like so. Okay, now if this is your first class doing this pose, that's a great method, okay? And I would say just start there so you can get a feel for what it's like to balance on your hands in a somewhat twisted shape. However, if you've done side crow before and you're kind of either working toward balancing it or you are balancing it, then I suggest we do a more full body participation. So we don't use this other elbow. This elbow is actually free. I'm going to show you this. It's off to the side. Now, essentially, you're going to do a diagonal twist. So hands are going to go over this way. And the far hand is just awkward at first, okay? Even this hand is awkward at first. So I usually just go to fingertips. And then once I'm kind of set there, I can get one hand down and then the other. And you're going to see both hands are turned out in this position. And I pause here. Now, this is the mistake that most people make, is they lean in and their hips fall down. You can really see that from that angle. But instead, watch, see how my hips disappeared up top? Watch how I keep my hips up. Now you can see my hips, right? And all I do is tippy toe. I lift my heels up. And from this position, my right shoulder blade can stay retracted. You see that? Retracted. While my left shoulder blade protracts. Now I can just lean into my fingers and pull my heels to bum. Okay? Once I'm on there, my left knee is trying to pull the skin of my my right knee is trying to pull the skin of my left elbow up, and that's going to really lock everything in with like a stability and strength. Okay? So I'm not just getting in here and resting like this, but I'm pulling. You see, I'm doing that abdominal crunch. Ready? Watch it. So my spine is doing this. Hope that's clear, or sorry, that's the opposite. This way, okay? Let me just see, I saw, there's a tiny evil indeed. Looks easy. Yes, a little evil, fun. So let's try it. I'm gonna do the other side now for a second. And if you're just watching, just watch. And maybe I'll show some other camera angles just to give you another glimpse of this. Let's see what would be. Yeah, maybe why not? Let's try this. Maybe it'll work. So again, the setup's a little bit weird with side crow, you know, because it's not ideal to start. But if you let your knees go forward, you can start here. And then usually it's just, I get my fingers to the ground so I have balance. And then without like, you know, doing any weird fingery things like where, you know, you get your full palm on the ground somehow. And then you can lean over to the side first. Let me show a little bit closer. And then once you're here, you're in a good position to start, okay? Once you've gotten here, the hard part's over. So now round your spine, and your left knee in this case, or your right knee, whichever one's touching the elbow, pulls up towards your armpit, and you lean forward into your fingers. Fingers grip the ground and pull your heels to bum. And I just pull my left knee, in this case for me, up towards my shoulder. Now, if the front body is contracted like that and you're really like pulling in, then what happens is you're gonna find like, oh, it's hard to breathe. So you gotta breathe in the back of your heart. Let me see, there's other view. So you want a different view? Let's try this one, shall we? All right, I'll keep demonstrating and keep talking you through while you are practicing. I'll just try to find more and more ways to say it, and I'll give you the different camera angles, okay? So this is a little more above angle. Actually, maybe it'd be best to keep it on this side while I do the pose on the other side, okay? So another way is you can start low, but the thing about starting low like I'm right now is you still have to, so you can get your hands down to the ground easier when you start low like this, but then you have to really lift your hips up, okay? So make sure your hips go way up to the sky if you start low. Otherwise, I find that most people starting low, they try to lean into it and they're just too far down. Hands turned out, hips go way up to the sky, above shoulder height. Pull the ribs in and round. And now, lean forward, grip the ground, push the ground away, and pull your heels to bum. Now, squeeze knees towards opposite armpit. So the right knee, if the right leg is on the arm, it pulls towards the left armpit. The left leg is on the arm, pulls towards right armpit. All right, let's see. We'll do just a completely different angle, I think. See if that works best for you. Okay, I'm starting from low to, and then I'll go up to high just to give you that again. So hand comes to the ground, hand comes to the ground. Now at this point, I have to first lean into my far hand and hips go up high. Then I lean forward, fingers grip the ground. Right shoulder blade pushes, upper back rounds. Opposite knee, whatever's on the arm, squeezes up towards the armpit as the heels pull to your bum. All right. So, as you're working that out and everything, everybody, if you still have more questions, just throw them at me. And I will show you a potential, where am I looking over here? We'll go over here for a second. I'm going to show you a potential variation of side crow for those of you that are starting to get it. Either way, by the way, this is hard for me, like to do this while pulling the knees up and rounding the back and really compacting the core. It takes a lot of effort and muscle strength from the hip flexors to the core muscles to the shoulders. So I imagine it's hard for you as well. The first step is always, of course, once you kind of get an inkling of balance, is to be able to hold it for 3 to 5 breaths. You know, that's the initial start before starting to think about like, maybe I can transition out of here, which is great. But if you can't hold it for 5 breaths, then transitioning the muscle and focus level won't be there yet. So I would focus on longevity first. But let me show you now another pose, and some of you are there. This one requires pretty wide hands. And for many of you, it might be helpful to do it on blocks. I'm gonna do it without blocks to start, I think, and then maybe I'll just pop them under my hands. So, yeah. How far away is one arm to another? Petty, it's probably a lot wider than you think. So broader than my shoulder width is the answer for me. So I imagine broader than your shoulder width as well. Otherwise, what's gonna happen is your elbows and your shoulders are gonna do some weird things. So wider than you think. Are the hands slightly staggered? Do the knees stay stacked or slightly unstacked? Let's see, okay, from this angle you can see first of all, I don't think the arms have to be staggered. So I'm gonna do it now at the top of the mat is gonna be easy for you to see like the alignment, okay? So here are my hands turned out at the top of the mat. Fingers are off the mat, so hands are pretty wide, right? You can see my pinkies and other fingers are off the mat. That's about a good distance. So I don't think that I need to stagger my arms. Let's look at the knees, okay? Round the back and lean forward, grip. Now, as I pull my heels to bum, it's very heavy until I pull my knees, see, up the arm towards the opposite armpit. So here's relaxed, here's pulled in tight. The top knee is actually kind of inching forward a little bit. If I'm to really look at that, they're not so staggered. The reason why they would stagger is if you're too, I would say too rotated. Yeah, a little stagger is fine. I mean, I think that's not the end of the world. So let me speak to this one thing. It's so hard to lift up, says Manlinga. I'm sorry, I forgot your name again. But that's exactly the thing is you can't be lifting up from the pose. You have to descend down into the posture. So that's why your hips have to be up. It's just once you're in the pose, the only thing that lifts up is your heels to your bum, but it shouldn't be like this. Let me show you again. It shouldn't feel like this, like you're here and you're like this. It means you're not in the pose yet. Here, you're in the pose and your feet are just, you see how my feet are just light? It's because I'm leaned forward. My ribs are pulled in. I'm doing the pose before my feet are actually off the ground. Then I pull my heels to bum. So you have to be up and over the posture first. Okay, so like look how I'm up with my hips and I'm descending into the posture rather than trying to get up into the pose. I'm coming up and over and descending into the pose. And the feet, as a result, want to come up with me. So that's just a little tidbit there. Hard time getting feet off the floor. So Lenora and Manlinger, anybody else that's having issues with getting the feet off the ground, its major step is lean forward into your fingers. Lean forward, lean forward, lean forward. Grip, 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 grip. And hands a little turned out, otherwise it's probably too strenuous on the wrist. Once you start leaning forward while keeping your hips high, your feet will get light, okay? The thing is, most people don't lift their hips up high enough and don't lean forward enough, and then all the weight's in the hips and therefore in the feet. So you gotta stick your bum up to the sky, you gotta lean forward until the weight comes out of the feet. I hope that's very clear. Johanna says, hello, serratus anterior, never felt you so clearly before. Yeah, that's gonna feel exciting later. Simona, and before that, let's see, so I'm missing some of this. And the below, that's free. And the arm, that's free, I assume. Is it moving alongside the ribs or opening out to the side more? The below, that's free. Elbow, that's what that says. The elbow, that's free. Is it moving alongside the ribs or opening outside more? So the arms are wider than shoulder width apart. So you see how my elbows right now are not touching my ribs. That's really where I would say that you should be. If you bring your arms in here, you basically turn off the serratus anterior and you turn off your pectorals, and you just kind of, it's too narrow. There's not enough strength, access to strengthening your muscles there. So elbows wider, but don't let them fall out to the sides. Have them stacked. You can see my elbows are stacked directly over the wrist, right? But you see how my free elbow here is not falling out to the side. It's right, the forearm is right over the wrist. Okay. Yay, it worked, wonderful. I love that. Let's see. Thank you for the demo. Balancing fine. Cannot slide knee up to arm like you did enough. Yes, that takes a lot of practice, and it's a full core leg participation. It's like pulling your pubic bone and your thighs up towards your armpit all at once. If you do that back drill again, it can help. Lara says, Amazing, I could never balance. Oh, yay. Congratulations, Layra. All right, so let me just show you the option for those of you that are kind of ready for the next thing here. Yeah, hands do have to be pretty wide for this pose, I've got to say. And I'm going to show you, the blocks are right now at the edge of the mat, a little bit off, but you got to be careful that they don't roll out. So here, side crow with hands wide, fingers turned out. Again, you got to ascend before you descend forward. And then here, right? Okay, now I pull everything up and then extend the legs out. Now, if I really want to make this look pretty, the right shoulder blade retracts. Let me show from the other view maybe. Ooh, hello core. Maybe just go from above. This is kind of an interesting angle for this. So, hello abdominals, okay. Hands wide. Lean, grip, push, pull. Left shoulder blade retracts. Woo! Yeah, it's been a minute. Yeah, lean forward did the magic. I'm so glad to hear that. Okay. It's been a while since I've done this. So this is super key. Unless you can do this, like I can do this passively and it's a lot easier. Which I don't suggest because it won't teach you anything, like, except for a party trick. You know, if you just want, I'll show you like a more passive version. You can do a party trick. You just get it as collapsed as possible in there. And then you just kind of like fall into it and wow. Okay, now that's easy, but it doesn't really train your muscular system. So what I suggest is don't go that route because it'll appease the ego, but it won't actually educate your physical body. It won't advance your practice. It won't develop body awareness, won't give you strength, won't increase your flexibility. It'll just increase your like ego of saying like, I'm capable. So instead, try to strive for true capability of really being able to access is my suggestion, which is a very long process. A friend of mine once said, short-term hard, long-term easy, which I think is really a great methodology. So short-term, make it challenging. So pull your knees up, all the same actions apply. Pull your knees up as tight as possible before reaching out to the side, melting the opposite armpit, or I should say, melting the opposite shoulder into retraction is going to make that more accessible. All right, I don't expect you all to just like nail that second variation. I wanted to provide it. I've never shared it in any of the immersions, so I thought it would be good. I'm going to do the other side one more time so you have a visual. It's all the same actions, nothing's changed. You just take it to the extreme by pulling your knees closer into the armpit. Hips up, pull the knees in. I squeeze the knees towards my opposite armpit. And try to extend while squeezing. Whee! Oh, hallelujah. All right, everybody, let's give our body a little stretch. So a good one for today, we're gonna do a twist to unwind. So take your right arm off to the right. That's the best way, yeah. And roll to give yourself a shoulder stretch. And twist, and if you're like me, your head's up here, you can put your head on a block. Let's do the other side. back. Let's do a cobra to stretch the abdomen. Come on to your back. Optional happy baby or hug your knees to your chest. If you want to do a supine twist or something like that, you can also do that. Any final postures that your body feels like it needs. And make your way into Shavasana. Come back to your breath. Awaken the fingers and toes. Stretch the arms. When you're ready, you can roll to your side. And come to a seated position. And just take a moment together. Place the hands at heart in honor of this practice and everyone that has passed it down to us and through us. We bow in gratitude. And with gratitude for this community, thank you all for being here. Namaste. All right, everybody. It was a delight to share with you. Thanks for practicing, and thank you for your efforts and your questions. Happy we got to spend this time together, and look forward to sharing with you some more. So, quick announcement, the 300-hour training is now open for enrollment. If you're interested in joining me for a 300-hour experience, which gets you 500 hours certified, but beyond the certification, I think the strengths of the training are way more important than the certification itself, though you get the certification. So we do biomechanics, technique, alignment, anatomy. We go over things like how to sequence a class for efficacy and to be more deliberate about how we present a class so that people have greater access to postures. We also go through theming and dharma talks and how to weave a message through a class, which some of you experienced in my last immersions, as well as social media, business, promotions, things like that. So if you're interested in a 300-hour training, please reach out to me directly, or if you're on the website right now, you can just click on the 300-hour and see what it's all about. All right, let's see. Thank you. Effie, thank you. Jen, thanks so much. Petra, thank you. Nikki, nice to have you here. Patrick, thanks so much, buddy. Appreciate it. Upside down. Oh, now we have Manlinga Yoga with Aga. I didn't see that before. AGA, Aga. Raquel, hello, thank you. Thank you so much for today, Matt. Wonderful. Troy, thank you so much. Thank you, Petty. Nice to have you here. Tara, all right. You're able to get some lift but can't maintain it yet. That is normal. No worries, Tara. Thank you for participating. Gui. I always feel like an idiot every time I try to say your name. I apologize. Nina. Uta, thank you. Yes, muscle memory is fantastic. It looks more like a scarecrow than a side crow. Love that. Cool. Hey, Simona, thank you so much. First time floating with the hips lifted off the other arm. All right, Simona, congratulations. That's brilliant. Happy to hear it. Alberto, thank you so very much. Kristen K, thank you. See you next time. Thanks everybody for participating in the chat. It's nice to see you here. Nice to have you.
Nice to be practicing with you. Fiona. I'm glad you felt that it was close to an in-person experience. That's wonderful to hear, Fiona. Thanks, Grace. All right, everybody. Carla, you have a nice evening as well. Take care. Beautiful day, morning, evening, wherever you are, everyone. Thank you, Johanna. Hey, Grace, don't worry about the protraction and retraction. Just work on the pose itself, and then over time, you can kind of perfect what's going on with the shoulders. But essentially, the side, if the knee is on that arm, push. That's all you need to know. If the left knee is on the right arm, push with your right arm so your shoulder blade would protract. If it's opposite, if the right knee is on the left arm, push with your left arm, okay? Hopefully that clarifies. And with the opposite arm, you can relax so the shoulder blade would retract in the opposite arm. But don't focus too much on that. Focus first on the leaning, gripping, pulling the knee up into the armpit.